Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. One of those things that can be challenging is your computer system, and how you make that work and no work. There's some people helping us there. And one of those is a professor at Northwest Kansas Tech named Jeremy Skrdlant. And Jeremy, good to have you on our program today.
Well, great to be here.
You know what? One of those things when I mentioned, we all sit down at our computer and it goes to work. And I just happened on mine this morning, sit down and there was something weird on it. So I ended up shutting it down and restarting it again. You are in the world of education, helping teach our students, and a unique program out at Northwest Kansas Tech that allows not only real world experience in cloud and computer programming, but taking those students and saying, hey, we have to help not only the world around us, but others. Jeremy, tell me about your program at Northwest Kansas Tech and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so our program is cloud and crypto programming. So basically we're building software development teams. So as a student, you come in and you learn kind of some of the basics, but then you go off into your own little general session. We try to build these entire teams. So you have management, you have development operations, and back end, that kind of stuff. So they're all making applications together, but they're all doing their own little part to make a really robust and good application.
So who comes to your program if said, one of the things I'd like to play around with that stuff, sometimes I get way over my head, but who comes to apply and attend your programs and your classes?
Different levels of students coming in, and we try to get everybody to where they can be a strong part of the team. So if you're willing to put in effort, that's a valuable thing. We have some that have never programmed before, and then we have a bunch that have programmed before. But generally, it's someone who enjoys making things and building things. So building apps is just like building different kind of structures and that kind of stuff. So you got to plan it out. You got to kind of design it, prototype it, and then keep on doing an iterative process where you keep on testing it, making it better.
In the background here on the video, there's a pinball machine. I call that old school technology, probably an older control board that may or may not be run by old-fashioned resistors, transistors, and all that sort of thing. What are you using that for? As we were talking earlier, you're using that to help transition students between old technology and new.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're using that actually to kind of teach students about IoT devices and a little bit about how to code to older devices themselves. So we're upgrading that with a Raspberry Pi, which is a little tiny computer. And we can communicate with that through the internet, but we can also develop different programs for it. So we can hook up all these different sensors and things to it where we can actually change the game itself. So maybe they can change to like target mode, or they can do certain things with flippers, or they can do different kind of applications that just interact with the pinball machine. So you have the pinball machine going, but you also have an app on your phone kind of interacting with it as well. So it's a really big part of the field. A lot around agriculture, we're dealing with a lot of tractors and stuff like that have all these little sensors, and they're all pinging back to the internet. And this is the same exact kind of technology. Basically, you're able to read sensors, read data, and then make certain cool things happen with that data.
Well, you mentioned all the sensors that are out there doing it. Does that tie in? A lot of talk today is, about AI and how that could end up. Does that play into what you're teaching the students?
Absolutely. I actually have a couple of groups of students taking part in the Microsoft Imagine Cup, and a big push this year was AI. So one group of students, they're actually making an AI app that will actually help instructors kind of with students doing some assessment and that kind of stuff. So they'll ask the AI for like maybe 5 or 6 questions of differing difficulty on a subject, and then it'll actually have the student kind of respond, and then the AI will actually kind of grade them. So it's a really cool tool, and it's something that we couldn't have built in the past. So it's actually more of an extension of the application than just being like a total change. So before, if I wanted to build that app, I'd have to think of how many if-then statements I'd have to run to be able to answer any possible question asked by a user. Whereas this, you can have the user say, I want questions about like ag or chemistry or any subject matter in the whole world. And the AI can come back with like a list and just kind of work with you.
Sometimes your imagination is what's the limiting factor here, because with AI, I was just thinking, you're talking about there's probably one set of students trying to figure out using AI, what questions could the professor actually ask on this exam? And then there's the other professor doing the program saying, what are my students doing that are going to say cheat or plagiarize or do something like that? So there's two sides working together with AI, both of them doing what AI is intended to do, but it sure does set up a whole new set of parameters for what we do in education and in the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely. And with our program, we're more pro forward with the AI stuff. We are concerned about students being able to using it to cheat and not become as strong of a programmer because they're just using it as a cheating tool. But some of the things you can do with AI is instead of asking multiple choice questions, it can actually ask like legitimate questions that are like essay, and it can grade it a lot easier for the instructor. You can make the projects more personal. So all our students will graduate with their own app in the App Store. So they have to make their own design, build the whole thing, and they can't do that just with AI. They have to actually put a lot of structured design and all that to get it all working together.
Where does some of the security come around where you're putting in the Bitcoin and all of that? Are you diving into that area at all?
Absolutely. So a big part of our program is actually crypto technologies. Now we're not just like purchasing Bitcoin and that kind of stuff. We're actually programming what's known as smart contracts. So a smart contract is a piece of code that you can actually write code to handle money and that kind of stuff. So let's say someone promises to deliver a product or something like that, like for a farmer within like a couple of months. And you either have to have a trust that the farmer's going to pay, or well, the individual is going to, well, the farmer's going to pay, or the person's going to deliver the product. With these smart contracts, the money can actually stay in the contract. And then until the item's fulfilled, they'll get released to the person that supplied the object. Or if it's not fulfilled, then it goes back to the farmer. So you don't have anybody having to trust the other person. You have these smart contracts where you can do all sorts of logic and work with money to some extent. You got to be very careful with that, though. You got to be really concerned about security concerns, make sure that your contract's rock solid, because once it's on the blockchain, it's there forever.
Things that happen on the internet, knowing the other party, knowing the security in the background, you don't have to watch television very long before you hear a story where somebody got ripped off, whether it be an older person. There was a story on this morning talking about somebody got ripped off on some online dating site. So, Valentine's Day and you get ripped off by somebody. It's not fun.
No.
Are your kids playing into that? Because, the big dollars that we have here in agriculture and other areas, are the students going to be able to come out and help business to be able to be successful at really avoiding that?
Yeah, so a big part of what they're working on, so this is such a new technology, a lot of times we're needing a lot of developers to work more on the onboarding and making it just easier to onboard people in a secure way. I know I've heard of a bunch of scams where like they had a certain coin and then someone went to a fake market and bought the coin when they actually didn't exist. So, and where the good places to go. So it's kind of like when the internet first came out, there's a lot of scams on the internet to kind of get people to send them money, that kind of stuff. So you got to be very careful with it. But there is a lot of good that can be done with it, a lot of security. It's a really good system for, like I said, smart contracts and that kind of stuff, where you can build a system that can be a trustless system and it just works.
Jeremy, I want to take a break here and come back because I want to hear what your students are saying and what they're going out and doing, because that's the important part of school. Not only to have the education, that's great, but how they put that into play. Then I'm going to ask you how you got started in this. So everybody out there, hang on. You're listening to Forward Ever, leading in challenging times. Be back with more after this.
The most successful investors are those that can keep their emotions in check and take a longer-term view at what portfolios will be worth 3 to 5 years down the road. I'd say that's the most important in determining what investor outcomes are. Market corrections will continue in the future. We've seen many of them over the years, only to see equity prices rise higher, and that'll be the case in the future.
Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, leading in challenging times. Our guest is Jeremy Skrdlant, who is a professor of computing and Cypro. I can't even say it. It's one of those crazy kind of classes that cloud and Cypro computing is the whole classroom set up. Jeremy, good to have you here. We went into the break. What are your students saying about your classes?
Oh, they're enjoying it. They're building applications all the time. They're working in a practicum right now, so they're working on a lot of real-world projects and going through the whole process. So they're designing out an app.
What's real world? What kind of projects?
One of our biggest ones we did recently was actually the Topside Tip-Off app. So in Goodland, we have the Topside Tip-Off. It's a basketball game, and they created an iOS app and a web app for it. And they had it all working, and it was running real time during the game, keeping track of the tournament and that kind of stuff. And we had a couple thousand people using it. So I think we had about 700 downloads on the iOS and then a lot on the website. And the people really enjoyed it. And the students enjoyed hearing from the community saying how they enjoyed that app and how it worked with them.
So how did you get started in this? I think you're a Kansan, so sometimes we're not in the middle of technology growing up, so to speak. How'd you get started in this?
Luckily, my high school had a couple of computer programming classes, and I kind of got started that way. It wasn't as easy back then as it is today. Like kids can make awesome applications in a little bit of time, and we used to have to put like months in to just get the cursor to move, that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, basically, I had some really good high school teachers that helped me out a bunch, and then I went to K-State for a while and got my computer science degree, and then I came back to help teach in my hometown.
That sounds like way fun. If somebody wants to learn about your classes, what they do at Northwest Kansas Tech, I know Northwest Kansas Tech, Fort Hays State working together, going forward on some things, but somebody that's out there, I just see there's such a great opportunity down the road for students that want to get into this because this is the forward looking thing. There's challenges out there. We need students, we need young people to be able to come through. And I say young people, that's really anybody who wants to go and learn this, to go out. How do they find out more about your program, Jeremy?
Yep. So we do it on our main website, nwktc.edu. Under the programs, we're right there in cloud and crypto programming. You can find out more. You can also contact our admissions and they'll let you know more too.
Well, that sounds good. So if I have a problem on my computer, I can give you a call and you help me work through it.
We'll try. Definitely. Yeah, that's more computer repair, but we do the software side of things. But yeah, we'll definitely help you try.
Yeah, well, that's fun because everybody needs a friend in the computing business in today's world. But when you look at programs that really work and those that are kind of clunky, you start feeling that right away. And some are just very intuitive is what you want to do, and teaching students to how to make that work, how to be able to use the financial side of that with crypto and doing that. What a great job you're doing out there, Jeremy. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for jumping out of your class to do this, and appreciate all you do.
All right. Thank you.
Jeremy Skrdlant is our guest today, professor at Northwest Kansas Tech. Thank you for listening to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.